from the state of Pennsylvania. Congressman Thompson, what do you think about this issue in terms of H.R. 3200, the bill before the Democrat bill before the Congress, and its impact on small business in the state of Pennsylvania?
Well, it certainly is. And first of all, I want to thank my good friends from both my colleagues from Colorado thank Mr. Coffman for hosting this very important session tonight, because what we're talking about is truly the economic engine of this country, and that's small business. Small business is so important. It has been and always has been our economic engine. You know, small businesses employ half of the workforce and create 72% of all new jobs. Old fables would refer to small businesses as the geese that laid the golden eggs. And last month, unfortunately, we lost 263,000 jobs in this country. Now, we normally would encourage small business with incentives to help the economy, to grow those jobs, to maintain those good family-paying jobs, family-sustaining jobs, jobs that provide health care benefits in most of those positions. Well, unfortunately, the Democrats instead are going to tax the few golden eggs that are left and probably kill the goose. According to data from the IRS, more than half of those targeted under the Democrats' health care surtax are small business owners. When you look at those businesses that are organized as S corporations, limited liability corporations, they constitute over 60% of individuals who file their taxes as individuals in making over $200,000. Small businesses, and out of those monies, they pay a payroll every week. Then there will be the $208 billion in new taxes on businesses that can't afford to pay now for their employees' health care. I was in a little town of Emporium, which is in Cameron County. It's a great county. It's in the middle of my district. Unfortunately, unemployment there is significant. Cameron County unemployment is among the highest in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I was there, and I was with a young lady who was an entrepreneur, and she was somebody that had that American dream, that drive to strive for something better. And she had created this small business and had a payroll she was maintaining. In fact, it was early in the first couple of years of this small business, to the point where she was willing to sacrifice, and she wasn't taking a salary, because she was dedicated to seeing this business successful and being faithful to her employees, the jobs that she had created, and chose not to take a salary. And then she doesn't offer health care. She would like to, but she can't. And she knows that under the proposals, any kind of mandation, any taxes, any penalties that would be incurred wouldn't result in health care for the employees she has. She would actually she wouldn't be able to sustain that business.
Would the gentleman yield back for just a minute?
Sure.
I'd like to yield to my fellow congressman from the state of Colorado, Mr. Jared Paulus.
Thank you. Appreciate that. You know, sometimes there's common sense that we share across the aisle. I've said from the start I think this surtax is a bad idea. And, you know, to explain it, there's a tax structure for those of us who haven't, and I've run small businesses, created over several hundred jobs. There's C Corps and there's S Corps and LLCs. And when we're talking about increasing this rate, this is the rate that affects S Corps and LLCs. Those tend to be small to mid-sized businesses, the backbone of America, a lot of family businesses, a lot of stores, and I talked to a brewery in my town. Those are the types of businesses we're talking about. The big corporations pay a tax rate of 35%. That's the corporate income tax rate. Currently, the marginal rate for these S Corps and LLCs is also that same 35%. Now, it's scheduled to go up, that rate for S Corps and LLCs anyway, because the Bush tax cuts are set to expire. Now, I support that. I suspect that you might oppose that, but that will raise it to 39.6%. It is that very same rate that this surcharge is scheduled to impact that would increase it at the margins an additional 5%. So it would actually go up to 44.6%. In many states, that means that small businesses would be taxed at above 50%. Now, I'm hopeful that in the final version they'll make some adjustments to that surtax. I sure hope they do. But I think it's an excellent point to bring up to show this disparity between what large businesses and corporations are paying, 35%, and what our family-owned businesses and small businesses are paying, which could, under the taxation mechanism, be a higher one. Now, there's several ways to address that. We could, of course, reduce the cost of the bill, and I hope that that's a path that my party takes. There also are alternative payment mechanisms out there, some of which have been discussed in the Senate, some of which have more bipartisan support. And I think it's critical, particularly in a recession, but at any time, that we make sure that however we pay for health care is not harmful to small business, which is the goose that laid the golden egg and the job engine that will lead us out of this recession. And I yield back.
Thank you, Congressman Polis. In this proposal, that it is not, I think the Congressman well stated it as to the issues on the income tax, and that this being an additional burden, but this is on the payroll tax. This is a payroll tax. This is whether or not the business is profitable. The business could be hit hard, could be stressed, losing money, trying to keep its doors open, and if it cannot afford health care, then it will be hit with an 8% surcharge of its gross annual payroll. With this, we also have Congressman Rob Bishop, and if I could yield to Congressman Bishop to address this issue, if that would be permissible from Congressman Thompson.
Absolutely.
Congressman Bishop.
Well, I appreciate the gentlemen both from Pennsylvania and our good friends from Colorado, all over the place here from Colorado. If I'm going to take you off on a stretch you don't want to go into, I'll stop and you can come back to me later. But I do want to try and hit this particular issue because there are other options that are out there which we have not explored. There are those who are saying we've got to do something now because if we don't do something now, we'll lose the opportunity of ever doing it. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as we're doing something. That's not necessarily, I think, true. And if you look at the history and organization of this country, what the Founding Fathers wanted to do, and look at federalism, you will see why that is not necessarily true. The federalism system that we have is in line so that if something has to be uniform throughout this entire country, everyone has to be doing the exact same thing at the exact same moment. We're the only level that can do that. But if you allow states to become involved in this particular system, these laboratories of democracy, you can have creativity, you can have justice because they are attuned to the demographics of each individual area, and what's more important is if you mess up, you don't destroy the entire country. On this floor, we have heard of states that have tried to get involved in health care reform who have messed up. We aren't paying for that. There are states who are doing it the right way. I'm proud that one of them is my state because the President admitted and praised Utah in its effort to do it, and it is going in the exact opposite direction of what we are talking about on the national level. It is going to a system that is based on consumers giving individuals empowered to make choices in a system that comes up with, first of all, allowing three goals of allowing real